You know, I think the best part about the List podcast is that Sean can't actually hear the music right now, but I can. You're close. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the only podcast that's recorded while my girlfriend's at work, the List podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Muzzolino. With me, as always, is our opinionated list maker, Sean Preller. This week's podcast is brought to you by the Cowtown Cowboy Outfitters. If you've ever wanted to dress like Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber, visit the Cowtown Cowboy Outfitters.
How did we manage to get them as our sponsor here, Kevin?
Well, Sean, I happened to be driving through, I don't even know what state I was in at the time, Maryland maybe, and I happened to pass through Cowtown, the often imitated but never duplicated rodeo, and couldn't help but stop at the Cowtown Cowboy Outfitters.
Oh, great.
So if you happen to be in southern Pennsylvania, please feel free to stop by at the Cowtown Cowboy Outfitters. All right, that's enough sponsorship for this week.
But you said it both ways multiple times. Like you say Cowboy Cowtown and then Cowtown.
Either way. I mean, you've seen Dumb and Dumber,
now both
right?
of them will sue us. Yeah.
You've seen Dumb and Dumber, and
Yeah.
like when Jim Carrey goes to that bar at like 10 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and he's got his cowboy hat on and all that, and his big
Right.
gloves. So that's the type of style that you can find at the Cowtown Cowboy Outfitters. So there you go.
I was looking for a place.
Yeah, I'm sure you were looking for a place to find just that outfit. All right, that's enough bullshit. Let's get down to brass tacks. This is part 2 of our discussion about comic book movies. We started last week, and Sean ranked how many? 80 to 30, I believe it was.
So 50 total.
50 of your favorite comic book movies were discussed last week.
They were not my favorites. They were mostly the ones I didn't.
Well, I didn't mean your favorites. I meant our listeners' favorites.
Yeah.
50 of their favorites were discussed last week. So
Right.
we're going to talk this week, starting with number 30. And we're going to finish this list off. And let's not forget that we are going to reveal the worst comic book movie. You would think that was number 80, but if you listen to last week's podcast, it was not. There's a even worse movie down at the bottom of this list.
Right. I'll save that for last.
So, are we ready for number 30?
Yeah, I suppose so. And if you haven't watched the last episode, go back and watch that one first. Because, this is when it starts to get good. But we had some great movies referenced in the last
Yeah, it's on
episode.
our YouTube channel, which is called
Podcast called The List
on YouTube. And you can also find the audio of these podcasts wherever you find your audio for podcasts.
Yeah. So, all right. So starting at number 30 for today, we're already into the good movies that everyone knows and loves. But number 30, I have X-Men, like the original one from the year 2000.
Oh, wow, okay.
That's kind of that movie that started the whole Marvel craze. That, along with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Okay.
Those two movies really launched Marvel into making good movies that people wouldn't just laugh at because it's, a comic book movie. How's that to be taken seriously?
Yeah, right.
It still had its cheesy moments, which is why it's kind of down here on the list. It was before, Hugh Jackman was like really taking the role of Wolverine.
So Hugh Jackman is Wolverine in this movie?
Yeah, that was his first appearance as Wolverine.
Gotcha.
But he wasn't quite, jacked Hugh Jackman. That was,
right.
owning the role. And then, just as I had just mentioned, number 29, I have Spider-Man, that original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Okay. I have that down here on the list, where some people would bump that up further up on theirs. Similar to my perception on X-Men, I just thought this one was a little bit cheesy at times. He was like an older Spider-Man, already, I guess, in college or something. So it wasn't quite the Spider-Man that I would have liked to see.
Now, I know that you're an actual comic book guy, so you've actually read these comics. So
not really, but okay.
In the what you have now with Tom Holland as Spider-Man is a high school age
Right.
Spider-Man. So what's like the normal age for Spider-Man?
Well, they do have both. I can't say that, but to start out for like a first movie, he should be high school age.
Okay.
Right there, similar to the Tom Holland Spider-Man, where he's like freshman and sophomore in high school.
Even though Tom Holland was actually in his 20s, I think, when he
Right.
filmed that movie. But hey,
he has a
whatever.
little baby face.
Yeah,
and
right.
he fits. Whereas Tobey Maguire, he kind of looked like he was 30 years old playing a college kid. So,
Right.
Number 28, we have X-Men: Days of Future Past. I really like that one, even more so, obviously, than the original X-Men, which might be a little bit controversial. But this one just had a great plot. The time travel, usually that's not done in movies very well, from what I've seen.
I can't wait to, obviously, I know we haven't discussed Endgame yet. I really need to hear your thoughts about the time travel on Endgame when we get there.
Yeah, right. But in this movie specifically, they have a great take on also Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in that movie. But then with the cast around him, the rest of the X-Men crew, they managed to mix, the young X-Men and with the old X-Men, and it's done very well. Just good direction, good writing. Everything was solid in that movie. Number 27, I have Captain Marvel. And oh no, those guys that love to hate on what's her name? It's just they're chomping at the bit right now.
So I mean, I'm
write us a nasty.
I'm surprised that you have Captain Marvel so low.
Low. Or,
I mean like low, like
yeah.
Like I would have expected
number
maybe
one?
even like a top 10 ranking for Captain Marvel. I personally thought that was a great film.
Are we talking about the same movie?
I think so. We're talking about the one that just came out like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the lady.
Brie Larson.
Yes, we're all forgetting her name, Brie Larson. I thought that was a great movie. But maybe it's just the 90s nostalgia in me that thinks it's a great movie. I don't know. I mean, what are some things about that make you only put it at 27?
Easy. So the end of that movie,
Easy.
when the cat scratches out his eyeball, really hated that.
Well, that was-
should have been like.
But that was the last time that he trusted someone.
Yeah, and that also was cheesy, and I hated it.
Okay, you've got a good point there.
Yeah, and
I'll
the
give you
villain in
point.
that movie was kind of. Do you even remember anything about the villain?
Well, it
other
was
than
that
he was,
guy,
like, controlling?
Judd.
Judd Apatow. Yeah, no.
Jude Law. It was Jude Law.
Yeah.
I remember that it was Jude Law, and he kind of seemed like he might be an okay guy at first, and then he turned out to be a bad guy. But you already knew that he was a bad guy.
Right. If you've ever watched movies before, you knew that guy was going to be the bad guy. All right. Number 26, I have Deadpool 2.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
And the worst of the two Deadpools. However, obviously not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was still raunchy. It was everything I wanted from Deadpool. It still made me laugh. They had a great version of Juggernaut in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. I do. I actually just saw that movie fairly recently because it was on TV.
Oh, really?
So.
For me, it's been a while. But like when it first came out, I've only watched it like once or twice right then.
But yeah, I mean, I liked that movie. I remember having a stronger feeling about the first Deadpool.
Right.
I saw that in theaters, and I remember thinking, "Holy cow,
same.
that was incredible!" Second one was more of like, okay, yeah, it was kind of the same thing as the first one. Like, I didn't have I liked it, but I didn't have as strong of a reaction to it.
Because you expected it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of it too is I seem like I generally prefer the origin story movies a little bit more.
Okay.
I don't know. That's just me not being a person who like grew up knowing the comics and stuff. The origins are interesting to me. So,
Yeah.
but you're right. Yes, Deadpool 2 was expected, whereas the first Deadpool was maybe more shocking.
Right.
I don't know. I remember there's that opening scene of Deadpool 2, I think, which is pretty graphic, so you knew what you were getting into.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably an appropriate ranking. But I don't know, man. I mean, me personally, I would have put Captain Marvel ahead of Deadpool 2 probably, but that's all I'm
We'll have to save that for when you start making your own lists. How about that?
Right, I'm not the opinionated list maker, so
Seems like you have some opinions, man.
I do. But anyway, here we are, number 25.
It's your house, I guess.
If you, one of the people listening right now, has an opinion of your own, don't forget to tweet about it at our Twitter, which is @thelist_pod, or you can send an email directly to Sean at podcastcalledthelist@gmail.com, and he will personally write you back and tell you why.
See, that'll be tough because it gets forwarded to your personal email.
He'll personally write you back and tell you why your opinion is stupid and his is correct.
Oh, okay. And I will write a lengthy response. Not very nice. Lots of curse words. All right. Number 25, I have Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Okay, yeah, I'll agree with that. I'm not going to say...
Would you put that above Deadpool 2, though? Because...
I wasn't that into Ant-Man and the Wasp, to be honest with you. I really enjoyed, again, the first Ant-Man. Mm-hmm. That was one of my favorites at the time when I originally saw it. And I don't know why Ant-Man and the Wasp didn't capture me as much as the first one. Maybe same thing again. It was kind of the same style and everything. Right. The original Ant-Man had that sort of caper feel to it.
Caper?
Yeah, it was like
the heist movie?
Yeah, it was like a heist movie.
Yeah.
Yes. And then this one, it kind of had the same feel to it, just a different story. So I think I always feel stronger about them when the movie is like new to me, and then when you get to the second one, it's kind of the same thing.
From what I remember, I just remember loving his daughter in that movie, the father-daughter relationship. Yeah. This one felt like less of a heist movie and more of like a family flick for me. And so that's, I think, what I drew from that and why I liked it so much. But only enough to rank it at number 25. Number 24, I have X-Men First Class. Really one of the top X-Men movies. This one introduced like a lot of the young X-Men, kind of having gone back in time with Days of Future Past. This one, I think, came before Days of Future Past. However, introduced us to younger versions of some characters and alternative versions to others. And so I just like this movie. This is also when they had cast what's that actor's name that now plays Magneto and Professor X. Those two guys. Michael Fassbender played Magneto, and he was a great Magneto.
Okay.
And then that other guy that plays Professor X, I can't ever remember his name. He was also really great casting. Number 23, I have Black Panther. This is a keeper, an easy one to go back to and watch again. Reason why I've ranked this so high is essentially the villains in this movie. I used the plural villain because you have what's his face, Gollum playing Claw in this movie, and then you have the guy that plays I don't even remember his name in the movie, but essentially the primary villain as well was a highlight for this movie. It wasn't only a Black Panther movie, but really a dichotomy between the two characters that was really gripping, and I enjoyed so much. So definitely want to go back and watch again.
Yeah, that was a good one. I remember it was when it came out. It was a huge movie, and I enjoyed it, but I also feel like I didn't quite understand all the hype around it. It seemed like there was a lot of talk about how great that movie was.
Right.
And it's a good movie. It's a good movie, but obviously not in the top 10 here. So.
Right. Number 22, I had Doctor Strange. Okay. Those two movies, Black Panther and Doctor Strange, at any given time, I might flip them. Like right now, I'm just like, really, Doctor Strange is above Black Panther? I don't know. But Doctor Strange really had amazing special effects.
For sure.
Things that blew my mind, really. And I enjoyed that one a lot, as well as the introduction of that character midway through the Marvel Cinematic Universe just felt really organic for some reason. And it expanded on the entire universe, being that it introduced kind of more your magical realm, which, again, Marvel's been doing a great job of introducing things step by step so that it's not overwhelming to the viewer. However, it's constantly world building. So when they first introduced, for example, in the first Ant-Man going into like a microscopic universe, just the concept of that, although you didn't really see it too deep, they then expanded on it with future movies with the time travel and things of that nature. And then in this one, you have, the magic, which then obviously just almost becomes mainstream from this movie going forward because they spent the time to introduce a concept and flesh it out.
Yeah, I feel like the magic aspect of it could have been cheesy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was really well done. I did not know really anything about Doctor Strange when I saw that movie, and
Whereas my dad calls him Doctor Strangelove.
You're right. I really enjoyed that movie though. So it was, to me that means it's a good film when I can go into it not knowing anything about that character and come away being like, you know what, that was a good movie, and I've seen that one a few times since then. So.
Yeah. Not a movie, though, to watch on an airplane, I would imagine, though. Can you imagine, like, when they're flipping, like, rails and stuff like that? They're getting motion sickness on an airplane?
Oh, man.
Yeah, that'd be rough. Number 21. Actually, I almost want to rank this higher. I just know it'd get so much flack. I personally just love this movie so much. Think it's an artistic piece. Is Watchmen. Have you ever seen this movie?
I almost texted you the other day because I was thinking about that movie, and I was wondering if it was on your list or not.
Yes.
I don't know much about The Watchmen. It's a graphic novel, right?
Right.
It's not a comic book series, is
right.
it? Okay.
It more so has become so now.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So yes, I saw again another movie that I saw at the time, not knowing anything about the graphic novel. I just my friends wanted to go see the movie, and I went with them to see the movie.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but I mean, yes, I've seen that. It's a great movie, and I really don't have much else to say about it. Without knowing much about the history behind it, I just know as sort of a casual viewer that it was a good movie.
Yeah, I just know it was. Again, the common complaint is that it was really drawn out and slow, and there's a lot of dialogue and not much action and things like that. However, again, thinking about it from the perspective of someone who maybe would like, say, The Godfather, this is like the comic book version of that for me, where it really just takes a deep dive into the characters, similar to what the graphic novel is known for. It takes a deep dive into what a comic book character is, what the challenges might be in reality for said characters in this world that the writer has created. And really, some of these characters, some have godlike powers, whereas others are just simply a guy with a mask on. and that difference in really how they're both heroes in this case, but one is just almost too logical, another one too emotional, and that gets obviously nasty if you've seen that movie. So anyway, number 20, I have Man of Steel. This is again my list, so screw all of you that hate the DC movies. I like Man of Steel. That's the modern Henry Cavill Superman.
Okay. Yeah.
I know this movie is really dark. It's really gritty, and Superman kills someone at the end of the movie. But I don't care. I like the movie. I think it was a great take on Superman. It's really a modern take of Superman. And it's what I wanted to see. So I still get teary-eyed anytime I see that scene with, the little boy Superman and his, Kate playing with the dog. Love that freaking scene, man. It just basically makes the whole movie for me. So then at number 19, I have Thor Ragnarok.
Aha.
I know you like that.
Yes,
one, right?
I love Thor Ragnarok. I'll let you talk about it, but I mean, me personally, I love the sense of humor
Oh yeah.
in that movie. If I could do impressions, I would do the impression. Maybe you can do it. Of
Korg and Meek.
yes, I love those guys. I really appreciate Taika Waititi, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, his sense of humor. I mean, I used to watch Flight of the Conchords like 15 years ago. Watch What We Do in the Shadows now, and I love those shows. So, yeah,
You're watching the new one?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It's great.
I've seen it.
It's so good.
As an option, but I didn't watch it because I stopped halfway through that movie of it.
Yeah, and it's
I thought it was
we're
weird as shit.
getting off topic. If anybody has seen What We Do in the Shadows, there was the mockumentary on Amazon Prime, and then they turned it into a TV show, which is on FX now, I believe.
Oh.
And they've done 2 seasons of the show. It took me a minute to get used to that the actors and the characters in the show were different than the characters in the mockumentary. But it really got going in season 2, so highly recommend What We Do in the Shadows.
But as far as that comedy is concerned, I didn't have the same issue with Thor Ragnarok that I had with like What We Do in the Shadows, the movie. It just wasn't as weird, you know. It still had your Korg and Meek kind of moments that were like they were just more so slapstick humor than they were, you know, that deep, like serious kind of humor that Taika Waititi can sometimes do.
Yeah, as we're talking about it, I'm thinking about when Thor meets Korg in that arena.
Yeah,
That whole scene is just gold as far as I'm concerned.
yeah. I like when Korg sees Loki finally talking to Thor. He like runs up and they buy a ghost or whatever that kicks the space that he was in.
And and I love what he's like. He's like, what does he say to Loki? He's like, hey man, we're gonna get on this plane, get out of here. You want to come?
There's that. Impression.
It's just so great. It's great.
Yeah. Number 18, I have Captain America: Civil War. This movie was just groundbreaking because then it introduced even more characters from the Avengers together, and then that you can see both points of view. I mean, they obviously, being that it's a Captain America movie, made it more so that they highlighted Captain America's point of view, that he's kind of the good guy in this scenario. However, at the same time, just as I am with Star Wars, I tend to be like, let's look at what the bad guys are saying, and then you're like, oh well, you know, really, you know, they're not that bad. Like, I kind of agree with a lot of their points, and so definitely did that in this movie. Those brothers directed this one, and obviously they went on to direct like your Endgame and Infinity War, and they do such a good job. So this one was no different. Number 17, I have X2. So this is the second X-Men movie.
Okay.
This one was really great. It introduced Nightcrawler as a hero, part of the X-Men. Do you remember that opening scene in this movie?
No, I don't.
Where Nightcrawler goes into the White House to threaten, I guess, the president. And he's just like laying waste to all the security guards and stuff like that. It was just an awesome scene because do you even know who Nightcrawler is?
Yeah.
He's the guy that poof, and then he goes into another spot. That scene was epic, especially for its time.
Yeah.
Because we're talking, this was still 2002, so comic book movies had just become a serious thing. Then all of a sudden you have this movie that really is almost a little bit grittier than even the first one was. First one again was a little bit campy. This one kind of took a grittier approach. Yeah. And again, this one was really, really great. Number 16 is the Tim Burton Batman.
Oh wow!
This is being the original Batman. That was serious Batman, if you will. Still not super serious. Still hasn't gone, I'm Batman. But it was still really great. I don't know. This is just a sentimental movie. It's kind of so high on the list. This one kind of kicked off a lot of stuff. If you were to say, as far as how good was this movie actually made, it would probably be way further down, but that's just almost sacrilegious when you're talking about, DC comic book movies.
I just Googled it real quick. I mean, holy cow, that movie came out in 1989.
Yep.
So that's incredible. Because some of the older movies that we've talked about haven't ranked very well necessarily. So
This one still kind of holds up as far as like, if you're planning on nowadays, this would definitely be considered a campy movie. But for its time, again, this is way before comic book movies were even remotely considered serious. And this thing kind of took Batman away from the super campy, golly Batman. That kind of era. And so this said, Batman's going to be dark and gritty, and he's the Dark Knight kind of a thing. So.
I mean, and I don't know what you think, but I think Jack Nicholson is kind of a creepy dude anyway as Joker.
Absolutely.
So
I can't say much about the Joker. I remember as a kid, frankly, disliking him as the Joker. That's, I think, primarily because of that Michael Jackson scene where he's like going through a parade through the city with Michael Jackson playing.
Oh man,
and I was over it. So I don't know. Again, that movie's kind of like before my time, actually. So, number 15, I have Wonder Woman. This is the most recent Wonder Woman movie with Gal Gadot.
Yes, I watched that with my girlfriend while she was home from work. In this instance, during the COVID-19 pandemic back in
I remember that.
Back in April of 2020 or somewhere thereabouts. I watched that movie. Really enjoyed it. I'm curious what you think. The fight scene at the end gets a little out of control, maybe, but I don't know. It was a good movie. We both agreed that we really liked it when we were done watching it.
Yeah, I totally agree. The end of the movie. When she's fighting Ares, I believe, that was not quite what I had hoped for. It went a little over the top on special effects.
Yeah.
However, everything leading up to that point was gold. Especially that scene in that World War I scene where she's going up over the trenches.
That was really great.
That was basically what I wanted from a Wonder Woman movie. Now, what do you think about this movie being like just another war flick? Because we got that very similar setting in Captain America, the First Avenger.
That's a good point.
Here they just introduced her in World War I and said, that's different.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I honestly didn't think about that. And I don't know how to answer your question, except to say at the time that I was watching the movie, I didn't have any issue with that, and I didn't make any comparison to Captain America at the time. Now that you're pointing it out, I'm like, shoot, that's a good point, but still a good movie. So I don't know what was going on back during like World War II when all these people were becoming superheroes, but whatever.
Oh, you're talking about with Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, because you're saying the same kind, because that's the same time period, right?
Yeah.
Between Captain America and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, kind of. But Wonder Woman is World War One.
Is it World War? Okay.
Yeah. So that's trench warfare and all the trenches and stuff like that.
Okay, so different time period then. Different time period. So it's totally fine.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, as far as directing and making a movie goes, Wonder Woman, I feel like kind of copied some of the same formula that Captain America: The First Avenger used.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And so that's kind of a knock on the movie. However, at the same time, it still managed to feel somewhat fresh with the context. And you don't get too much World War One content. So,
yeah, right.
All right, number 14, I have Joker. This is that somewhat recent DC
The
film.
Joaquin Phoenix movie. I was wondering, I've been thinking about that movie because
You've seen it, right?
Yes, I was hoping that it was on your list somewhere.
Yep. So that's up near the top of the list. That was certainly a movie that was disturbing. I don't know what your experience was watching it. Did you watch it at home?
Yep.
Okay. I saw this movie in theaters, and that's where I found it the most disturbing. The reason being, if you've seen the movie, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker kills some bad people that were unsuspecting, and he felt good about it. And so, but he like straight up murders these people. So there's people in the audience that are clapping and laughing while people are being murdered on screen, and that was uncomfortable for if you're like, this guy's also a sociopath. So he wasn't really a hero in this movie the entire time. He was just someone you maybe felt a little bit bad for, and that's what I've noticed in talking with other people who have seen this movie. They maybe sometimes relate to the character and say, oh, well, that's why he did it, and so everything he did was justified. And then there's the people that, you know, like me, that I'm a little bit like, but he's fucked up in the head. You know that, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, that was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. I remember Amy and I watched it, and I'm pretty sure she said that was not what I expected. I kind of knew going in kind of what that movie was going to be like. She did not. And it was a great movie, but yeah, it was not your like typical kind of comic book movie.
Yeah.
I think of it as like sort of I would call it a character sketch of the Joker. You know, just sort of a look at what makes him him.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. All right. So number 13, I have Spider-Man 2. That movie's freaking great, right? You have Doc Ock, and the guy, I forget the guy that played Doc Ock, his name, but he was actually a great actor, and he really gripped you as a villain. That's really what I took away from that movie, was him as a villain, seeing Spider-Man kind of, again, maybe not at the right age or something like that I would like to see Spider-Man in. But as far as for this Spider-Man, he was what I had wanted to see. Everything about this movie was great, including like that train scene when he has to stop the train. That's kind of an iconic Spider-Man thing following that movie. So
I was just trying to see if I could find real quick who played Doc Ock in that one. There is Alfred Molina is the guy's name, which I'm not familiar with that guy, but James Franco, of course, is in that one. And that's, of course, the Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst.
Right. Yeah. So number 12, I have Iron Man, the first.
Okay. Yeah.
First Iron Man, first real Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. I'd seen this in theaters when it came out. Kind of, I remember actually going into it. This was like on a date, so it was just like I just went to go see a movie. Didn't really care what it was, and ended up coming out of that movie being like, I hope they make more of these Marvel movies. That was really great. And I didn't know a whole lot about Iron Man other than maybe a video game I played as a little kid. So you have Robert Downey Jr., who's now gone on to make how many movies playing Iron Man? Yeah. And still, like, every time you never hear, oh, Iron Man is the weak character in this movie, or even anything close to that. Yeah. He's always knocking it out of the park. And this started all of that. So, number 11, I have Superman, the original Superman.
I gotta look this film up. What time frame are we talking? I want
to say the 70s.
Is that a Christopher Reeves Superman?
Christopher Reeves Superman.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just an iconic movie for every reason. You have the Superman theme song from this movie. You have everything. I don't know. Christopher Reeves is Superman, so.
Yeah. 1978. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And it looks like it's in the 70s, but again, you take it for the time period that it came out, and this movie was extremely successful. And again, it's tough to say that comic book movies would have been taken seriously even today if it wasn't for groundbreaking movies like this. Yeah. So, at number 10, I have maybe my most watched comic book movie, weirdly enough, is the first Ant-Man.
Yeah, when you said your most watched one, I was feeling like it was going to be Ant-Man. And that is one that I've also seen a lot. And like I said before, it was one of my favorites when I first saw it. And it still kind of is. I mean, anytime, like, if it happens to be on TV or whatever, I'm like, yeah, I can watch some Ant-Man. You know, it's just one, I don't know, like, I just have
it's
no...
like candy. It's like comic book movie candy.
I have no problem, like, putting that movie on.
Yep. Yeah, it's just so fun to watch, and it's a light movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's lighthearted. It doesn't take a whole lot of... It's not a complex, like, thread storyline, something like that. It's pretty much just, like, heist movie... with superheroes, and that's what you get. And it's really good. Some light comedy, and you have Paul Rudd, who's just like the most likable person I think in existence.
Yeah, I love his friend in that movie, and I don't know the actor's name, but the guy who like does the recaps and he talks really fast.
Yeah,
like I love that guy. Like that was such a great part of that movie. And again, it was more interesting in that one because it was an original idea, you know. Then they use that same trick, of course, in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But yeah, it's a great movie.
Absolutely. Number 9, I have Spider-Man: Homecoming. This is the highest Spider-Man movie I have on my list. The last one I have on my list. Spider-Man: Homecoming. Again, it had the right Spider-Man for me. High school period. Tom Holland, I feel, really took on the character at that younger age. Again, like he was older than his role.
And that's normal, of course.
Right. But then he managed to really become that age. I almost can't watch him in another movie. I've seen that he's been in a couple things since, and I don't watch those movies because I'm kind of like, oh, yeah, he'll be playing like a more serious role where he actually is his age, kind of a thing. Yeah. And I'll be watching, I'll be like, no, it's not. This isn't Tom Holland. Like Tom Holland is that high school kid that's always like nerdy and quirky and
right.
He becomes Spider-Man for me.
I actually just saw him in a movie on Netflix, and I get what you're saying. He was playing sort of a bad guy in this movie, and it was it's unusual because now you're sort of knowing him as this sort of lighthearted, quirky Spider-Man kid.
Which again, I know as an actor that would be frustrating.
Right.
But as a fan of comic book movies, kind of in general, I can say that like that's kind of what I want. I want the Robert Downey Jr. effect or the Hugh Jackman effect, where I'm watching this movie and I'm not thinking, oh, this is Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I want to be watching it and just saying that's Wolverine right there.
Yeah.
You know, that's the character, and that's basically what I think of when I think of the character. And Tom Holland has managed to do that so quickly. I really wouldn't say that in Captain America: Civil War that he had quite done that for me. But then as soon as they came out with Spider-Man: Homecoming and I saw the first trailer, I was just like hooked. I was like, this is gonna be the Spider-Man I want to see. And at number 8, I have Avengers: Endgame.
Wow, all the way down.
Yep.
At number 8.
Yep.
Cool. I don't have a whole lot to say about that because you and I have talked about Endgame before. Right. It's a good movie.
Absolutely. Good enough to be number 8.
Yes, it's a good movie, but I always compare it to Infinity War, which of course is the superior film between the two.
Absolutely, I think so.
So
just to finalize that through point that you made earlier with the time travel, this movie did time travel as well. And this movie did time travel very well. However, not as well as that movie that I had listed previously, which was X-Men: Days of Future Past. So this movie, when they did go back in time, I found that to be slightly... it took me out of the movie, actually. At one point, for example, with the Hulk, when he's now Intelligent Hulk, and you see him make fun of the old Hulk that like smashes a car.
Because when they go back to New York and he's like very like unenthusiastically like Hulk smash and like wax a car or something.
That actually took me out of the movie because in my head I was a little bit like, oh, they're making fun a little bit of that first Avengers movie that I won't now be able to watch and think how epic it is because I'll be thinking, oh, there's Smart Hulk also in that alleyway, I guess, making fun of him or whatever, and it's not quite as epic. It just took it out away took that away from me in
Yeah.
watching this movie.
I remember when I saw Endgame, I did not know that it was going to be a time travel movie. So
I
at
didn't
the
know either
beginning,
necessarily.
spoiler alert, when they track down Thanos, and I was like, yeah, I mean, that movie came out years ago. I think we're past the point of spoilers, but I was kind of like, okay, we're like 10 minutes into this movie. I'm checking my watch. I'm like, what the hell are they gonna do now?
Chop his head off.
Yeah, I'm like, what's gonna happen now? That's it, right? Turned out that was not it.
Right.
Overall, it's a good movie. I was a little unsure of the time travel thing because, like you said, time travel can be questionable.
Especially when you go into moments in time that you've already kind of seen, and that's what I didn't like about it.
But it's cool that they make an effort to recognize that with the timelines and everything.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange can even show the timelines a little bit. So that's a cool kind of take on the time travel a little bit too.
Yep. And this movie got rid of, or assumingly, there haven't been very many Marvel movies since then. One of our favorite Marvel cinematic movie characters in Iron Man at the end. So that was obviously very gripping. And that's another strong point that this movie has is I remember people in the theaters just bawling their eyes out all around. So,
this is ridiculous, but I did not see Endgame right away, and I forget why. I was delaying to see it for some reason, and I was at our place of employment and happened to walk into an office where two people who you would never think would be discussing Endgame were discussing Endgame, and this person let the cat out of the bag
oh no,
about the character that maybe doesn't make it through Endgame at the
I
end.
already said, so yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, so he didn't explicitly, I don't think, say Iron Man's dead. But it was enough that I overheard to figure out, and I was like, "What the hell? I've been avoiding spoilers on this movie for weeks.
Yeah,
I'm finally going to see it, and someone accidentally gave it away for me."
Oh, that's a shame. But that's why you got to go see a movie.
Yeah,
when it comes out, I guess. I don't know. Number 7, I have Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
And this movie was just great. It's another one of those movies that for me, it's like eating candy. It just has so much humor in it. It's basically not even a comic book movie. And I mean, it is, obviously. But when I'm watching it, I'm not necessarily thinking, oh, this is part of this Marvel Cinematic Universe. You can watch that as a standalone movie and really enjoy it.
Right. That was one that sort of reintroduced me to the MCU movies. Because I had seen Iron Man years back, and then watched the first Guardians, and I was like, holy cow, this is really good. And I didn't really realize at the time when I saw it, I was viewing it as a standalone movie and not thinking about it as part of the MCU. And then when they were going to be added in for Infinity War and stuff, I was kind of like, how's that going to work? But that was my reintroduction into these movies, and I agree with you. It's a great movie. You can pretty much watch that anytime.
Absolutely. Next up on the list, I have the first Avengers movie.
Okay.
This is just one of those iconic movies. They just did something that had never been done before, similar to the same way I would have ranked Superman so high or Tim Burton Batman so high. This is one of those movies that just had everything going for it, and then just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Exceeded expectations. I remember people talking about going to watch it 3, 4, 5 times in theaters because they love comic books. They love comic book movies that had come out up to that point. But again, it just exceeded every expectation that really everyone had. You saw all these characters that you had seen written down that were beloved characters. Just come out of the page and onto the big screen in a way that they took those characters and made them real. You know, so that's really why that movie's just at number 6. And if you had given me this list or right there at that time that the Avengers had come out, I would have had no problem just saying, yeah, that's the best comic book movie by a mile.
Yeah.
So now we've officially gotten into that realm of, like I had just said, the Avengers is a lot better, I'd say, than even that first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So now we're getting into that top tier. These are those best comic book movies that if you haven't seen, you're missing out. And so you just got to get out there and see these. At number 5, I have Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This was a gritty movie. This was like one of those, whereas Ant-Man was a heist movie, this movie is like a spy, James Bond kind of flick. This had that serious tone with a really great villain in the Winter Soldier himself. And Captain America through line, a storyline that was something that you wouldn't even necessarily see in like a quick comic book. This was like a full series in a movie. And so this was a top tier movie that you could probably watch without having seen the rest. Of course, it's uplifted by the movies that had come out up to that point, and still had a lot of references to the other Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, but one that maybe it's not a candy kind of film. However, it's one that stands on its own as being just a good movie. I believe this was the first one directed by those brothers that ended up going on to direct Infinity War.
I don't know that for sure, but you're probably right.
I think that's the case. And I think this is probably the movie that kind of gave them that opportunity, if I had to guess. At number 4, I have The Dark Knight. So that's the second of the Nolan trilogy. This one also had a Joker that everyone knows as being essentially the quintessential Joker at this point. Again, great Batman. Maybe not my personal favorite Batman. However, again, a great Batman. And what else can you say other than Heath Ledger as the Joker? Was amazing, and the plot itself was amazing. So, number 3, I have Deadpool.
Wow. Okay, that's up there pretty high.
Yeah. So I saw this in theaters twice, I want to say.
Wow.
And both times it was laugh out loud funny. And both times I had seen. Whereas the first time maybe I missed some jokes because I was busy laughing at the last one. This one I caught some more of those jokes. I've since seen it a bunch of times and found new jokes that I had missed previously. And so this movie is just written geniusly, and you'd seen Ryan Reynolds before as Deadpool, but it wasn't quite the Deadpool anybody wanted. This was what everyone wanted. Again, now he's become Deadpool since this movie. So,
man, I saw that in theaters. Not really knowing anything about Deadpool, but
that would be great,
right? But the thing was, there was a little kid in that theater.
Oh no!
And man, the theater
that would have been me growing up.
That theater was packed, and I think we actually ended up sitting in like the first row or something because it was so packed. And there was this kid sitting like 2 seats over, and we're like, "What is this kid's parents thinking, man?" So I don't know if that kid's parents were like me and didn't know what they were getting into.
Probably not.
Or maybe they're just terrible parents. I don't know. But they didn't bail. They let that kid watch that whole damn movie. So I guess good for them.
Yeah, some kids can handle that thing. Again, I probably would have been able to see it. I wasn't held back at all. And look how I turned out. Now I'm on this great podcast. Number 2 is Logan.
Wow. Okay.
So this is, again, when I think of Wolverine, I think of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. But now when I think of Wolverine and I think of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, I think of the movie Logan. This really took that Wolverine character and made him human and ultra real to the degree that I don't know that I want to see another Wolverine character ever. Like I couldn't even quite say that with a Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Whereas maybe I'd be like, 10 years from now, I'd be like, oh, well, Robert Downey Jr. is, past maybe that role.
Yeah.
Let's maybe see what somebody else can do.
Right.
At this point, I'm like, I don't want another Wolverine. Like, this is Wolverine. He's played that role since the year 2000 up until this movie came out, 2019? I want to say 2018, 2019. And this is that's 18 years dedicated to
2017.
2017. So close. I have a poster of this movie in my basement, and this is just one of those quintessential comic book movies that you don't need to watch comic book movies normally to just be amazed by this one. And at number one of Sean Pereller's comic book movie ranking, I have Catwoman.
I was gonna say there's only one movie we haven't talked about yet, but here we are. It's Catwoman.
Catwoman is at the top of the movie. Okay, so this is that Halle Berry Catwoman movie?
Yes.
Okay, there's one point she plays basketball with this guy.
Okay.
And she's like grinding up on him and stuff like that as they're playing basketball. And that really sold it for me. Like, I'm thinking Halle Berry is Catwoman from here on out. And at one point she even goes, meow. And that was also a great scene.
Wow.
Yep. And there's a lot of cat puns where she's like, this is just perfect.
Oh, God.
And it's just amazing. Amazing writing, amazing directing.
So cheesy.
The special effects knocked out of the park. Okay, so seriously, obviously, that was my number 125. You'll probably know there's only 88 other movies on my list. I have that one right there, number 125, just leaving room for any other comic book movies that might come out, because this one's going to forever be my least favorite. I think I've seen it like 2 or 3 times, and each time it was borderline unwatchable.
Wow.
Yeah, even worse than Batman and Robin or any of those other ones. Really, at number 1, I have Avengers: Infinity War. Obviously, you just have the quintessential comic book movie at this point. Everyone I know has seen this movie and loved this movie. This builds up to this ultimate climactic scene that really is a huge portion of the movie, with massive budget, massive special effects. And a culmination of all the movies prior with all your favorite characters, just to really crush you at the end of the movie.
That's a good point. Yeah, you don't have that payoff of the happy ending that you could maybe be building towards in a lot of other movies.
Yeah.
So
speaking of people crying in the theater, I remember people crying and just being verbally being like, what the fuck?
But that's part of what makes that movie so incredible.
Exactly. Yes.
You don't get some happy, satisfying ending. In a way, that ending is somewhat satisfying just because it's different.
You would not expect that, I don't think, from many other comic book movies. Logan kind of had that at the end of its movie, where you lose your iconic character and it's just so gripping. This movie does it in a way where you lose the majority of your favorite characters.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Spider-Man, in Iron Man's arms, that's...
I don't want to go.
That still haunts my dreams, man. I mean, holy crap.
Yeah. And it again was just so great. It everything paid off at that point. And you knew there were more Marvel Cinematic Universe movies to come, so you knew this wasn't the end. Yeah. But at the same time, you had no idea where this was going to go from this point, because it was just
it's so rare that you would see the heroes suffer such a tremendous defeat like that.
Right.
It's not even some small thing we've lost the battle. At that point, they lost the war, man.
Right. And so, again, not to hark back to one of my other favorite movies, but in Watchmen, it also had the same culmination. The entire movie built to a point where at the end it's supposed to be a nuclear holocaust, the end of the world. There's only one person that really can do anything to stop it, but yet he himself is also powerless because he's the only guy in the room like without superpowers. So he ends up getting killed at the end, and that's like the end of the movie. And you're like, so I guess the end of the world is coming. So that's kind of how this movie then takes that even to a whole nother level. And so just
it's
a
very dark, heavy ending.
Yeah,
like same as in Watchmen, a very heavy ending to it. Like it's the kind where you usually there's that buzz when you're walking out of the theater. That movie, not that same kind of buzz. There's a lot of murmuring, like what the fuck was that? You know?
Yeah. And so for the people that are upset that I did not get to their movie, I want to apologize. I have not seen every goddamn comic book movie that has ever existed. Kevin might have seen some of these. He can give a quick, his opinion on it, but I can't speak to any of these. So I'll list them for you guys now.
So I can see Sean's list from here. So now that we've covered this, he's going to just give you a list of movies not included in these rankings.
So you don't have to yell at me like, why did you forget about The Rocketeer? It's because I've not seen The Rocketeer, and I probably won't. Sorry. So
I probably won't. Sorry.
Yeah, when I do, I can...
He'll put it at number 124 once he sees it.
I'll put that in the description of the video, maybe, if I remember. All right, so in this movie not included, I have Superman 2, Superman 3, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
I've never even heard of that one.
Yeah, I know. Some of these are really crappy movies. I do mean to see Superman 2 at some point. I think that one's worth watching. Swamp Thing. Also one that's maybe worth watching.
I'm not familiar with that one.
That's also a DC comic book movie. Another one, Constantine. I think this is the one with, what's his name? The guy from The Matrix.
Keanu Reeves?
Yeah, Keanu Reeves, I think is Constantine.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it's a scary movie.
Yep, you're right, Keanu Reeves.
Yep. I've not seen Jonah Hex. I think this is one that our fellow friendly historian expert has seen, and I think he really likes it. I've not seen Wonder Woman 1984. That movie just simply hasn't come out yet. I have not seen The Punisher with Dolph Lundgren. He was the Punisher at one point.
Jeez.
Although I'm a huge Punisher fan, so maybe I'll see that at some point. I've not seen Captain America with Albert Pyun. I don't really know anything about this movie, but when I was doing a little bit of research on things I could have missed, that was one. I have not seen Dark Phoenix, because I'm being told that one might challenge Catwoman as being one of the worst comic book movies ever made.
Oh, no.
Apparently it was a huge snooze fest, and also just a shitty movie. All right, I have not seen The New Mutants. That movie hasn't come out yet. I have not seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze.
Oh, man. I saw that in theaters when I was, however old that I was when that movie came out. So, great movie. Great movie.
Must watch.
I mean, as far as I know, like when I was like 8 or whatever when that came out, it was great.
Okay. Can you still see the mouths inside of the costumes?
Oh, okay.
I'm
pretty sure.
Same costumes.
Yeah, same costumes, I'm pretty sure.
I have not seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
I remember that one. Scared the shit out of me. Super Shredder.
Oh.
Saw that one in the theater when I was like 18.
Don't know.
No, just kidding. I was probably like 9 when that one came out. But Super Shredder really scared me.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, The Meteor Man. Don't even know what the hell I'm talking about.
I've never heard of
But
it.
apparently that's one. The Crow. That's one I'm supposed to watch.
I really hope that someone listens to this podcast someday and it's like, screw you for not watching The Meteor Man. I really hope.
I get one of those emails that's just like, The Meteor Man is my favorite movie and you didn't even watch it. All right. As though anybody would give a shit when I watch it. Anyway, The Crow is one to definitely watch.
Oh, yeah. Jeez.
The Shadow. I don't know what that is. The Phantom. That's the one I'm thinking of when I think of The Shadow. I think The Phantom is one that's just an old cheesy movie that I should watch. Then there's apparently The Crow, City of Angels.
I remember that movie. That's from the 90s, right? I'm pretty sure.
Probably.
But that's all I could tell you.
All right. Mystery Men, which I can't say that I didn't see that movie. I just don't remember it at all. Like, I was probably like 6
I don't
watching
remember
that movie one time, and it's gone out of my mind. The Crow Salvation. How many fucking Crow movies
Well,
are
clearly
there?
there's a Crow
The
trilogy.
Yeah, well, no, there's the Crow Wicked Prayer as well.
Oh, I have no idea what the hell that is.
What are these movies? There's Underdog, which
That sounds like some sort of weird cartoon.
I think it was a cartoon
Oh.
for a long time.
Right.
And then similar to like Charlie Brown, you know, one of those kinds of things. I only know Underdog is what my dad would yell as he pushes me on the swing and he runs underneath me. And he goes, Underdog. Anyway.
You had a great childhood, man.
Yes. Then there's The Spirit.
I don't remember that.
Okay. Now, another movie you've probably seen and loved, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. What is this?
I don't know. That doesn't sound familiar to me.
Oh. I don't know. And then there's the Hellboy reboot.
Definitely did.
This is a recent Hellboy movie. I think our fellow historian, friendly historian, has seen that movie and told me not to watch it.
Oh, okay. Well then, good. It's on the movies not included and will never watch list.
Yeah, and well, here's one that I will watch. It's Brightburn. That one's gonna come
Brightburn.
out.
What's that?
It's like Superman if he was a bad guy.
Well, that sounds incredible. Actually.
Yes, like if he was a murdering kid. It's a horror movie.
Cool. Well, that sounds good. One question for you, real quick, before we go. What about this movie, The Old Guard, starring Charlize Theron
What is that?
on Netflix? I think it's based on a graphic novel or something.
Oh,
I have seen this movie. I really liked this movie.
Oh.
So something for you to check out. Because it may need to be included on your list somewhere. Double check me on the history of that. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's
I've
based.
never heard of it.
I'm pretty sure it's based on a graphic novel. It's called The Old Guard on Netflix. I enjoyed the movie. So anyway, something to check out. You'll probably put it at like number 123. But anyway, I mean, I think that's it for this week's episode.
Comic book movies, man.
So that's comic book movies, man. And I'm going to go ahead and cue up some outro music, and we'll be back maybe next week with another list.